this morning, I want to talk to you about a certain word. I want us to think about it all throughout the service. But now, when most of us hear this word that I'm going to talk about, it usually tends to lead us to the negative, all right? And rightfully so. Mainly because when we use this word, or some people use this word or say the word, they usually mean it in a negative way. And the word I'm going to talk about today is called clingy. Everybody turn your neighbor and say clingy. Now, I didn't think I was going to have to use illustrations or examples about what clingy is, but I was out with two couples actually on Friday night, and they're a little bit older than me. Is Sherry a little bit older? Not a lot, right? You're just a little older than me? And I said, they're like, well, what are you preaching about? And I was like, well, I don't want to tell you because I don't think you'll come to church then. But they're here. So I told them, and I said, clinging to Jesus. And they're like, what? You're going to do clean to Jesus? I was like, no, cling. And I was like, okay, I guess I better explain what I'm actually talking about here today, all right? So, clingy, what does it mean and how is it usually used negatively, all right? Well, Megan and I, we went to a Christian college and they did not have co-ed dorms, which meant that all the couples would leak out into the hallways and stuff like that. And there was these just clingy couples. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen these people? You know, it just makes you feel weird. Like, why are you sitting that close to that person? What are you doing? Yuck. And I remember when Megan and I started dating, we had conversations. Before we started dating, the conversation is, what kind of couple do we want to be? Do we want to be that clingy couple that nobody really can stand to be around? Or do we want to be that couple who, people want to be around, we love each other, we're by each other, but we're not going to be that clingy couple. We decided we're not going to be that clingy couple. And actually, Megan, come here. Megan took it a step further. Come here, come on. Quick. Come on. This is Megan. Everybody say hi, Megan. Hi. She took it a little too far because, she would say, how we hold hands was clingy or not clingy. And for 2 years, we weren't allowed to walk anywhere in the hallway and hold hands like this. That was too clingy. Does this make you feel awkward? I'm sorry if it does, because it did to her. So we only could hold hands like this. Come on, walk with me. You love me. We've been married for 19 years. Come on. We could walk like this. But not sorry if I made you feel weird right there. I'll change it, okay? 2 years I wasn't allowed to hold her hand like that. But now, is it okay now, Megan? Okay, whoo, I've made it. So, clingy. You guys know those people? You don't want to be around those people, all right? You don't want to be one of those people, okay? You can love your spouse, but don't be that clingy person. It's negative. It's weird, all right? Well, here, let me give you another story about clinging to something that is kind of, okay, it's a weird story. It's kind of gross, but it's okay. I'm the youth pastor. It's fine. I can do these kind of stories, right? But this story is about one of my daughters, all right? And it was, I told her I wouldn't say her name because it's kind of an embarrassing story, but I said, okay, I won't say your name, but I'm going to talk about it, okay? Is that right, Maddie? Is that how I said it? It was okay to do it that way? It was all right, okay? All right, so I'm not going to say her name, all right? Got it. All right? But this happened when she was a baby, okay? It wasn't like yesterday, all right? So don't worry. But this was when she was a baby, around 2, maybe a little younger, maybe a little older. But when she was a baby, she had problems with going to the bathroom, all right? And I'm not talking about number 1, okay? I think you guys get it. It's number 2. She had issues, okay? And she just couldn't go. And as a parent, I would feel really bad for her because it was hard to see my daughter struggle and cry, and her face would turn red, and she would scream whenever she had to go, but she couldn't go, and it was an issue, and we went to the doctor. What can we do? And we did everything that we could do to try to figure out how can we get this girl regular, all right? I don't know what to do, but we had a little happy accident one day. It was kind of happy, kind of bad. I don't know. It was an accident. We found out how to cure her, All right, we figured out what would work. And one day, I filled up the bathtub with nice clear water, and I put her in that bathtub, and then all of a sudden, that water started to turn another color, and I was like, oh no, what's going on, But that's what worked. Nothing else worked, but whenever we would put her in the tub, ta-da, it would work, all right? Now, this was the deal. This is the deal that we came up with. We're like, okay, we're going to put her in the tub, and we don't want to clean out the tub every time. Gee willikers. But we put her in the tub, and what we would do is we would watch for her face. When her face would start to get red, and it would start to turn, it would make shapes and weird, I don't even know all this stuff. But when that happened, we would know, okay, got to get her out real quick and put her on the toilet, and we were safe. Everything would be okay. All right? Well, there was another time where we missed that look on her face. And I was like, darn it, But we're sitting there, and we look up, and she's in the bathtub, and then we look down, and sure enough, there it is again, all right? And she is screaming, and her face is bright red, and she is crying, and she's, ah! And we look down, and all of a sudden, she has this thing that was inside of her, now on the outside, she's clinging to it. She's clinging to it, and she's looking at it, and she's screaming at that now. She was screaming about the pain, but now she's looking at that, she's like, ah! And she is saying something like, you have hurt me for the last time. And she throws it down, and it was gross. Don't cling to that. I'm glad you're grown up now, and we don't have those problems anymore, all right? I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to participate in that. Clinginess and being clingy and clinging to things is usually done in a negative way. All right, and that was just another quick story. There again, being clingy in that situation is bad, all right? We do not want to cling to those type of things, all right? But this morning, I want all of us to ask ourselves this question, all right? You can write this question down if you take notes, but what am I clinging to? What am I clinging? Don't write down what is Donny clinging to, okay? What am I clinging to? All right? Because whether you like to admit it or not, if you are really honest with yourself, more than likely, you probably are clinging to things of this world tighter than you might think. We're probably clinging to the things tighter than we would think of this world. Maybe you're clinging to your phone. Maybe you're clinging to money. Maybe you're clinging to activities. Maybe you're clinging to different relationships. I'm not sure. That's where you have to look into your heart and decide, what am I clinging to? But today I want to encourage you and hopefully change the way you think about the word clinging and what you're clinging to. I want all of us to walk out of here today actually being clingier than ever before, but not to the things of the world. I want us to cling to Jesus. And I know this is a simple concept, and I'm sure that we've all heard of this before. We need to cling to Jesus. But I think this concept, yeah, it's simple, and we've heard it, but I think it's really hard for all of us to put into action. I think if we were really honest and we looked into our heart and we said, you know what, I've heard this sermon before that I need to cling to Jesus, putting it into action sometimes is a lot harder. That's why we have scriptures like James 4:14, which says, why? You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. This scripture helps remind us that we need to stop clinging to the things of this world that are here today and gone tomorrow. We need to stop clinging to the things that have no eternal value and start clinging to Jesus every chance that we get. This morning, I want to look at two different people in the Bible. These people were both clingy people, but one clung to what was good and one clung to what was bad. One clung to Jesus and one grasped and held tight to the things of this world. I want to look at these people and hopefully help you to get clingy with Jesus, to Jesus today, all right? So the first way that we can cling to Jesus, this is the first point, is forget the crowd. Everybody say, forget the crowd. Just making sure you guys were here with me. Good job. All right, to explain what I mean by forget the crowd, let's look at this first person, and her story is found in Mark 5:24. So let's go ahead and open up to Mark 5:24. And And this is what it says. It'll be on the screen if you didn't bring your Bible. But Mark 5:24 says, "So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, if I could just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from all her suffering." Now, of course, this is the story of the woman with issue of blood. We can see from this passage how the woman had this issue for a long time. In fact, she had it for 12 long years. She spent a lot of her time, she spent all of her money and everything on trying to get this issue taken care of. And every time she would go to the doctor or she would go anywhere to try to get this thing fixed, she wouldn't get better, but she would get worse. This issue wasn't getting better, even though she was spending money, even though she was going to the right places, even though she was trying to do the right thing, it wasn't getting better. Then one day she heard about this man and how he was going to be coming through her town. And once she heard about Jesus, she ended up having this wild idea that if she could just get to him, if she could just cling to him, even just for a second, if she could just touch him, even for a second, that she would be healed and whole. Now, why is this such a wild idea that she would go and cling to him, even just for a moment? Why is that such a wild idea? It was a wild idea because she knew there was going to be a crowd there. She knew there was going to be people surrounding Jesus. In fact, in Mark 5:25, it said a large crowd followed and pressed around him. She also knew that the crowd knew that she had issues. They weren't dumb to this lady. She's had it for 12 years. If you have an issue for 12 years, people are probably going to know and people are probably going to talk about it. All right, so they knew that she had this issue. But this was also a big deal because she knew what the crowd was going to do to her. She knew that the crowd was going to make fun of her, laugh at her, ridicule her, call her names. You know, she unclean. She knew that she wasn't supposed to be in a crowd. And she was willing to get on her hands and knees and crawl in the dirt and face the crowd just to cling to Jesus. Just for a moment, just for a second. She was willing to face all of that. I wonder what would happen if we, every single day, would actually cling to Jesus and forget about the crowd. What would happen? I wonder what would happen if we really did what Hebrews 10:23 says to do. When it says, "Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful." God is faithful to do what he says he's going to do. So I'm not worried about him holding up his end of the bargain. I'm worried about us. I'm worried about us. Are we holding up our end? Do we hold unswervingly to the hope that we profess? We come into this house and we sing songs and we say Jesus is king. We wear shirts. We come to church. We do all this stuff. But when it comes down to it, are we willing to maybe look a little foolish in front of a crowd for Jesus? Let's look into our lives, into our hearts. Are you willing to look a little foolish for Jesus? A few weeks ago, Pastor Barry was talking about physical healing. And he mentioned how we shouldn't be ashamed to maybe pray for people outside of these four walls. Maybe we should just go out there and pray. I mean, what's the worst thing that they could do? He said, tell you no. You know? And I remember sitting in the front row and shaking my head. Yeah, that's good. Way to preach it, Pastor. We should pray for people. All right? So we had a good church service. And then Pastor Jared and his family and my family, we all decided, okay, it's lunchtime. Let's go to Culver's. So we went to Culver's on the south side, all right? I'm going to rat on Pastor Jared and myself a little bit today, okay? So we go to Culver's. We have a great lunch. And then after lunch, we're getting ready to head out of Culver's. And there's like this little crowd, not a huge crowd, like 5, 6, 7 people maybe, standing around this lady. And this lady is on the ground, and clearly she is hurt. And we waited for a little bit because we didn't know what was really going on. And then we walk outside. And I remember in my own mind, I don't know what Pastor Jared was thinking, but in my own mind, I thought, we should pray for this lady. You know, we just heard this story, or we just heard this great sermon. We should pray for this lady. And I remember walking out and just thinking, there's a crowd there. They've already called an ambulance. They don't need me to butt in and pray for this lady. We'll just walk on, and Pastor Jared and I start to walk. And from the back, Devin, she yells, "Hey, pastors." By the way, our wives only call us pastors when we do something wrong. All right? So they're like, "Hey, you're a great pastor." No, it's like, "Oh, I forgot to tell you I love you today." "Hey, pastor, don't you love me?" No. So from the back, we hear, "Hey, pastors, don't you think we should pray for this lady?" Yeah, we should. You're right. So we go back, and Devin kneels down, and we're all standing around there, and Devin kneels down, and this lady is hurt. I mean, this arm is weird. It was not in the right spot. There was blood on the ground and stuff like that. And Devin's like, "Can we lay hands on you?" And everybody's like, "No, don't do that." Her arm is broken, clearly. So Devin's like, "All right, can we just pray for you?" And we stood around and we prayed. The lady's like, "Yes, she's super nice," and all the people in the crowd was real nice. Like, "Yeah, you can pray." So we prayed for her, and then we went ahead and we got up and we left, all right? It was fine, nothing crazy or anything like that, but we prayed for her and then we left. But I just remember, like, over these last 4 weeks, I've been thinking about that story and thinking about that time. And as I was typing this sermon, it took me back to that story, because for me personally, the crowd, even though it was small, even though I'm a pastor, even though we just heard a sermon about how we're supposed to pray for people on the outside here, the crowd still deterred me from praying for this lady. It still stopped me from doing what I know that we should have done. And what was the worst thing? She was going to say no. It was fine. But we'll probably never know if the prayer helped anything. But the point of the story is, you should not let the crowd stop you from clinging to Jesus. Every moment, every chance that you get, whether it's here at church or outside at work or anywhere that you're at, we need to cling to Jesus. The woman with the issue of blood did not let the crowd stop her from clinging to Jesus. In Mark 5:27, it says, "When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak." It might have taken her 12 years, but she no longer cared about the crowd. She no longer let other people's thoughts and words and actions hold her back from clinging to Jesus. She knew what she had to do, and she went for it. My encouragement to you here is, don't let it take you 12 years to forget the crowd and cling to Jesus. Don't let the crowd tell you how you need to cling to Jesus. You need to forget the crowd and cling to him. And do it, hold unswervingly to the hope that we profess. He is Jesus. He is King of Kings. And we sing about it. We say that. Let's prove it. Let's cling to him and not let anybody else hold us back or stop us from doing what we know God has called us to do. The second way that we can cling to Jesus is loosen your grip. Loosen your grip. Now, I know you're probably thinking, how can I cling to Jesus and loosen my grip? All right, now I believe God can use all things for his glory. I mean, that first story, okay? You can use anything, all right? Even Maddie, as a baby. As a baby. All right, now, I believe God can use all things for his glory, even a show like The Simpsons, all right? Now, I haven't watched The Simpsons in like 25 years, all right? So it's not like I'm watching this every day. But as I was typing this sermon out, this clip from The Simpsons popped up in my head. And this was random. I was like, how am I doing this? And I believe it was the Lord, all right? And let me just tell you what was happening here, okay? Now, Homer was at work. He works in a factory. Not Joel Simpson, sorry. Some of you guys are thinking probably like Joel and Amanda. No, the Simpsons, all right? Homer is working in a factory, okay? And one day he's getting off, and him and his buddies, they are walking out of work for the day. And as they walk by, they see this vending machine, this pop machine that's sitting there. And Homer, soda. He wants some pop. And he looks down and, no money. He has no money, but yet he wants this soda. So he gets this brilliant idea, and he takes his arm and he crams it up into that soda machine, and it shows his arm wiggling up into the pop machine. He grabs a hold of that pop, and then all of a sudden, he's stuck. He can't get out. He doesn't know what to do. His friends are like, oh, sorry. And they're just like, hey, whatever. And so Homer, with his arm up in the soda machine, starts to drag this soda machine with him. He's still leaving. He's got the pop, and the whole machine is with him, and he's dragging it. And as he's walking, guess what? Candy machine. Candy. No money. So clearly he didn't learn from this. And he grabs up under there, and he grabs the candy, and now he's got 2 vending machines on his arm, and he starts to walk. And he starts to go with both of these, and he doesn't know what to do. And then it cuts to a scene of him sitting down, and he's calling his wife, and he's like, I won't be home right away. All the first responders are standing around him now, and Homer's stuck in this position. It cuts to him, and he's standing at his daughter's wedding, his youngest daughter's wedding. And he's daydreaming about all this that's happening. And he's daydreaming about one day he's going to be at his daughter's wedding, who's a baby right now. And he's going to have both of these vending machines still on his arm. And, it's kind of funny. He starts shooting out candy and pop to everybody, but he still can't get his arm out of there. It goes back, and Homer's sitting there, and there is a paramedic, and he has a saw out. And he says, Homer, we're going to have to cut your arms off. Homer's like, well, they'll grow back, right? the responder's like, maybe, I don't know, And then finally somebody from off screen yells, Homer, are you still holding on to the pop? And then it cuts to him running out of the factory, and all his friends laughing at him. He had such a tight grip on that pop and on that candy, and yet he was still willing to let those vending machines drag him down. He was willing to drag those vending machines with him. He was willing to let that slow him down and get him to slower to wherever he needed to go. And all he had to do was let go of the pop. All he had to do was let go of the candy. But he would have rather gripped tight to the things of this world, and he gripped tighter to that stuff. And I feel like that's a picture of us sometimes. Like we would rather grip and hold tight to the things of this world instead of Jesus. We would rather grip so tight to the things of this world that we're okay if it drags us down a little bit. We're okay if it slows down our walk with Jesus because we just got to have the things of this world. We're just holding on so tight. And all we have to do to be free is let go. All we got to do is say, God, it's yours. And we would be free. There was a man in the Bible who also had a tight grip on things of the world. And I want to read his story to you. Mark 10, verse 17. Says this, as Jesus started on his way, a man ran up to him and fell on his knees before him. Good teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Why do you call me good? Jesus answered. No one is good except God alone. You know the commandments. Do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not give false testimony, do not defraud, honor your father and mother. Teacher, he declared, all these I have kept since I was a boy. Jesus looked at him and loved him. One thing you lack, he said, go sell everything you have and give it to the poor, and you'll have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me. At this, the man's face fell. He went away sad because he had great wealth. Now, of course, this is a story of the rich young ruler. Here was a man who was a hard worker. I think he was smart. He even asked great questions. And on top of all that, this guy followed the commandments. He followed the commandments. So what was wrong with this guy? Well, Jesus told us what was wrong with him when in Mark 10:21, when Jesus looked at him and loved him. One thing you lack, he said, go sell everything you have and give to the poor, and you'll have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me. Jesus picked up right away that this man was more interested in clinging to his money and the things of this world than clinging to Jesus. This man had a tighter grip on his money than he did Jesus. Now I want to get something straight here, all right? Jesus didn't care this man had money. Jesus cared that the money had the man, all right? I want all of us to know it's okay to have money. It's okay to have nice things, nice clothes, nice shoes, nice house. It's all right to have all that stuff, but when that stuff has you, you're gripping too tight. You're holding it too tight, and it's wrong, all right? So let's make sure that we're not holding too tight to that. Meaning we have to cling and hold tighter to Jesus and let Jesus have more of our heart than anything that this world has to offer. Luke 12:34 says, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Another question for you, a simple question. What has your heart? What has your heart? Because whatever has your heart has your grip. Too many times we find ourselves in the same spot as the rich young ruler, in the way of not letting go of this world, of the things that hurt us. He had such a tight grip on money and the materialistic stuff instead of spending eternity with Jesus. And we know this because by the end of the scripture in Mark 22, it says, at this, the man's face fell. He went away sad because he had great wealth. He walked away from Jesus because he had such a tight grip on money. How many of us would walk away sad because we have too tight of a grip on the things of this world? Again, this is a message that we need to look into our own heart. And would we walk away because we have such a tight grip on this world? It's time we loosen our grip on the things of this world. And just so you know that this is not a one and done thing. This is a thing we need to do every day. We need to check our heart. We need to loosen our grip. We need to get with Jesus every single day. Luke 9:23 says, then he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. Loosen your grip on this world is a daily act. If you really want to be his disciple, then we need to deny ourselves every single day and follow him. We need to loosen up our grip every single day and follow him. And this goes into my last point this morning. The third thing you need to do is to cling to Jesus is you need to tighten your grip. So we're forgetting the crowd, loosening our grip, and now we're tightening our grip. This is the action step that we need to take. Matthew 6:33, that's what Matthew 6:33 is talking about when it says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all things will be given to you as well. If you want to tighten your grip on Jesus, seek him first. Go to him first. Seek his kingdom first. We can talk all day long about how we need to cling to Jesus, but if we don't tighten our grip to Jesus, then we're just like the rich young ruler. We're all talk and no action. We're choosing the things over this. We're choosing the world over Jesus when we're just talk. I like how the Message Bible puts it in James 4:7-10 when it says, so let God work his will in you. Yell a loud no to the devil and watch him make himself scarce. Say a quiet yes to God and he'll be there in no time. Quit dabbling in sin. Purify your inner life. Quit playing the field, hit bottom, and cry your eyes out. The fun and games are over. Get serious, really serious. Get down on your knees before the master. It's the only way you'll get on your feet. We need to quit messing around with clinging to Jesus. It has to be more than words. There has to be action. We have to take action to this. If we want Satan to run away, then we need to quit clinging to the world. We need to get serious, really serious about clinging to the King of Kings. Stop acting like the rich young ruler and maybe a little more like the woman who said enough is enough and decided, you know what, I am going to go and I'm going to cling to Jesus. He's the only thing that makes me healed and whole. He's the only thing that is worthy. He is the only one that I need to cling to. And she did that. She finally realized that a moment with Jesus is better than a lifetime with anything this world can offer. I think we need to get to that spot. We need to get to that spot that, you know what, if I just had a moment with Jesus, my life would be better. I would be healed. Things will be better if I just take that moment with Jesus. I think, again, a lot of us know this, but a lot of us don't do anything with the knowledge that we have. In fact, this is what happened. I think this is what happens a lot of times with Christians. I mean, we come in here on Sundays and we sing songs with our hands raised high. We did it this morning. You know, we sing songs like, you know, I don't want anything but you. Give me Jesus. You can have all of this world. I don't want anyone else. I don't want anything else. You are my one thing. We sing songs like that. We sang those exact words this morning. But really, I think most of the time, if we're honest with ourselves, or if we look over the week and we think about these lyrics, I bet these lyrics sound a little more like, you know what? I don't want anything else. We come Sunday. I don't want anything else but you. Well, hold on. I don't want anything else except maybe a little more sleep. You know, I was going to get up and read my Bible today, Jesus. I was going to pray, but you know what? I needed a little more sleep. But yeah, I don't want anything else but you. Oh, give me Jesus. That's great. That's a great line. That's a great lyric. Yes, give me Jesus. I mean, after I watch my Netflix show, after I binge that show, then, give me Jesus. Oh, wait, I got to clean my house first. I have a whole to-do list, Jesus. Let me do that, and then give me Jesus. You can have all of this world, Jesus. You can have all this world. Well, you can have all this world after my kids' sporting event. You can have all of this world after my kids dance, you know. You can have all this world after anything else that my kids want, all right? Don't take my kids' schedule, all right? You can have anything else but that, all right? But really, Jesus, I don't want anyone else. I don't want anything else except maybe a little more me time so I can scroll through my phone without any interruptions. But for sure, I will go to church on Sunday. I will stand up during worship, sing, give me Jesus. But after that hour and a half, Jesus, it's back to clinging to what I want. I think that's really, I think if we look and we really examine our hearts and we examine our lives and we examine our weeks, I think it ends like that more than the other. I think it's time to change that. I think it's time that we start clinging to Jesus first every single day. No excuses. No excuses. Jesus is so much more than a 911 call. He's our Father. He's our friend that sticks closer than a brother. He's our all and all. Let's start clinging to him. You just need to make that decision to cling to him first and watch what happens. This means clinging to the word of God before you cling to your phone. This means clinging to a time in prayer with him before clinging to our to-do list. Jesus first should be our new life slogan. That should be your new life slogan. Molly, you can put that on a shirt. All right? Jesus first. All right? We need to put that into our hearts and into our heads and let that be what goes through when we wake up in the morning. Jesus first. Then everything else. I want to end this morning with a story. And I've told this before, but it was just a story that I couldn't get away from as I thought through this message. But this is probably the earliest memory that I have of my life. All right, it was when I was around 2.5 years old, and this is a story that I can remember, and I don't have a good memory. Okay, I can't remember what I did yesterday. All right, but I remember this so clearly. But I remember standing in my house, and my mom and my dad were there. My mom was in another room, and my dad was there, and he came up to me, and again, I was like 2 years old, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to go to the store with me?" And at that point, at that moment, I was like, "No, I don't. I don't." And I can remember him leaving and him going out the screen door and the screen door slamming and him getting into a full-size conversion van. It was a sweet van. It had like one of those chairs in the back that would fold down, and it was a bed. We would sleep on that on vacation. It was sweet. It had running boards and all that, which is pertinent later to the story. But it had all this stuff. And I remember he hopped in that van and I don't know if he was serving the Lord at this time or not, but he turned on some heavy metal music and he cranked it up really, really loud. And at that point, he's gone. My mom is in another room, and 2-year-old Donny, decides, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going with Dad. And I yelled, "Mom, I'm going with Dad." And I took off outside out of that screen door, and I ran. I didn't wait for her response. I was just like, I'm out of here, And so I just took off, and I remember running up to the van, the music up really loud, jumping on the running boards and trying to open the door. I couldn't get it open. And I was like, Dad. And I remember yelling, Dad, I'm here, open the door. And he would not open the door. He didn't hear me at all. And I'm just like, what is going on? Dad, open the door. He didn't hear me, and he starts to drive off. I'm standing on the running board. I'm holding on to the door, and he won't open it. And he starts to take off. And I don't know how this happened or what happened here, but I just remember that I fell off the running board and slipped under the van. 2 years old, I remember this, slipping under the van. And I don't know what I was holding onto, but I was gripping tight onto something because I didn't let go. Because if I was to let go, he was going to run me over. He did not hear that his 2-year-old boy was there wanting him to open the door. And I slid under the van and I held onto and I grasped tightly to something under that van. And I remember getting drugged on a gravel road. I remember them doing that and me screaming. And somehow, Jesus, my dad heard me yelling and screaming that I was under the van, and he stopped the van, and I remember him carrying me in and them taking rocks out of my back. But the point is that like whatever I was holding on to, and as tight as I was holding on to it, that's what saved my life, was whatever I was holding on to and grasping so tightly. And I think as Christians, we need to cling even tighter to Jesus than I did to whatever I was clinging to under that van. We have to hold tight to Jesus. And let me tell you something that I believe that somebody in here, as I was praying through this, and I changed a lot of this multiple times, but I think there's somebody in here that needs to hear that clinging to Jesus tight is the only thing that's going to save your life. Clinging to Jesus over this world is the only thing that is going to save your life. When maybe there's people in here that have prodigal kids. They don't follow Jesus anymore. Can I just encourage you? Cling to Jesus. Run to Jesus. Hold tight to him. Maybe there's people in here that are struggling with their marriage. Cling to Jesus. Don't let go of Jesus. When your health is failing, cling to Jesus. When addiction seems to have a hold of your life and you feel like that addiction has a hold and a grasp on your life, let me tell you, you need to cling to Jesus. You need to run to him and hold tight. Oh, man, I remember my knuckles being white just because I was holding so tight. Can we do that as Christians? Can we do that as followers of Christ? Cling to him that tight? Stop letting what we sing, stop making Sunday mornings just a Sunday morning thing and make it a forever thing. That we just cling to him all of the time. That when we sing, "Give me Jesus," we actually mean it. We need to cling to Jesus and him before anything else. So we're going to sing "Give Me Jesus" again. If I can get you all to stand up. And I don't know what you might be going through in your life, but I feel like there are people in here today that are clinging to the world over Jesus. This might not be spiritual, but if you're doing that, you're like Homer Simpson. You got those vending machines just attached to you. When you're clinging to things of this world, you are dragging things with you. It's slowing your growth with Jesus down. It's slowing you down. It might be slowing your family down. And it's a simple concept. Let go. Let go of the world and cling to Jesus. So we're going to sing "Give Me Jesus" today. And if you're in here and you're clinging to things of this world, it's time to lay it at the altar. Altar is a place of sacrifice. It is time to sacrifice that stuff that you are clinging to the Lord and say, you know what? No longer am I clinging to this world, but I'm clinging to you. Again, Jesus is the only thing that will save your life. He's the only thing worth clinging to.